So we spend a lot of time working on our independence, wanting to be more and more independent. And I think that comes from living within systems. We live within a system all of our lives, and we seek more and more independence, more and more freedom from those systems. Most of us have had jobs for a long period of time, and you work within the constraints, the confines of a job. So we want more and more independence. And that's okay. It's okay to want independence. I think that's a good thing. But now when we look at business and we think about independence, that's not really how business works. You see, because everything that we do in a freight broker business requires that we do it with someone else. It requires that we have those interpersonal skills. We develop those skills so that we can communicate effectively and we can build relationships with others. Because just think about it. In order for us to get freight, we have to talk to shippers. We have to be able to communicate with shippers, speak to them in a way that they understand, and understand that we can solve their problems. When it comes to carriers, we have to communicate with those carriers, learn how to relate to those carriers, because we don't relate the same way to everybody. Different people come from different walks of life. We have to approach them a little bit differently sometimes. We have to know when we should do certain things, when we should say certain things. And how we learn that is through developing our interpersonal skills. So yes, we talk a lot about independence. And again, I think independence is important, but let's not take it out of context. Let's also learn and make sure that we know that we have to develop these interpersonal skills in order to be the best freight brokers that we can be. But what skills should I pay the most attention to? Are there some specific skills that freight brokers need to acquire, they need to develop so that they can have the most success? What skills are those? Don't worry about it. Slow down, calm down. I have you there as well. In today's video, I'm going to share with you 5 interpersonal skills that I think are the most important, the ones that you really need to focus on to have the most success in your freight broker business. So let's hop into it. What I believe is the most important, most dynamic set of skills that you can develop as a freight broker, especially a new freight broker. A set of skills that will help you to attain your greatest potential as a freight broker. What skills am I talking about? Your ability to connect. The first skill that we'll talk about today is your ability not to talk, but your ability to listen. It's that one skill that everybody says, hey, I need to improve. I'm gonna get a little bit better at it. I'm gonna take the time and start to pay more attention to other people. I'm gonna listen. But you know, most people never get around to doing that thing that they call listening, because we're too busy talking. If we really understood how much more we would get accomplished, especially as it pertains to our relationships and building those relationships with shippers, but that's also in our regular life. If we really understood how much more we would get accomplished if we would only listen better, if we would pay close attention before we spoke to people, if we would think before we talked, if we would really hear what someone has to say and pay attention and not focus on how we're going to respond, but more focus on what it is, the words that they are saying. If we would do that, we would find ourselves to be better communicators. But it starts with your ability to listen. And I mean a really deep listening to understand, not a listening just to respond. You know how we do. We're listening, and as a person is talking, we are catching tidbits. And we catch those tidbits, we process it, and we say, oh, okay, this is what I am going to say when my turn comes. And we get a whole thing going on in our mind. Well, it's all about how we're going to respond. And we've lost this person. We're really not listening to what this person has to say. Is that really a respectful way to converse with a person? To only be worried about how you're going to respond to what it is that they're saying? I say not. I say you're missing key parts, key elements to what that person is saying. And you're really not understanding because you're not listening to understand. When we talk, if we listen to understand a person, our relationships would get better because we would understand better before we talked. Don't pay so much attention to you speaking. What you have to say is not that important. What that person has to say, since you are engaging that person, you're talking to that person about their business, what they have to say is important. Now, if you're afraid that you're gonna forget what it is that you wanna say, jot you some questions down. Put some questions down that you would have and you would ask as follow-up questions. But do your best, practice very hard to give your undivided attention to whoever it is that you're talking to. The second skill that we'll discuss today is your ability to communicate. Of course, we have to have good communication skills. We have to know how to speak effectively. We have to be articulate when we're talking to other people, when we're talking to a shipper, we're talking to a carrier. But it's not about trying to act as if you know every word in the freight broker dictionary. It's not about that. It's not about trying to talk over someone's head. It's about talking so that the person you are speaking with can understand you. You can understand them. That's effectively communicating with a person. It's too often we try to be something that we're not. We don't need to try that hard. We just need to be who we are. Genuine, be honest, be a person of integrity. For example, let's say a shipper asks you, hey, how long have you been in business? Don't fumble over that. Come right out and tell them how long you've been in business. Because if they really wanted to know, they can just go and check your MC number. So if they ask you that question, be straight up and honest. Don't hesitate. And number three, the third skill that we'll discuss today is your ability to negotiate. Why wouldn't that be one on our list? That's very important. We do that every single day as freight brokers. We negotiate with shippers and carriers. So we have to be good at negotiating. Spend time learning how to negotiate. What is negotiating when you really think about it? Well, it's just your ability to come to an agreement in the most professional way. You see, I don't get in arguments with carriers or shippers about rates. I discuss rates. If it starts to get out of hand, I ease back. Because this is not about me arguing. I would rather stop and just listen than to have an argument. Because guess what happens when we start to argue? Well, that person may get in the position where they say, hey, it's a little bit awkward to have to work with Brandon now because we've had an exchange. So I don't let it get to that point. If I see it going that way, I pour water on it. Ease back a bit. I don't have to be the one that wins the conversation. That's not what it's about. It's about building relationships, and that sometimes you taking a step back. The fourth skill that we'll talk about developing is our self-confidence. Self-confidence. Think about that. When you're self-confident, you're bold, you're courageous. You stand up and you say what it is that you mean. You mean what it is that you say. You're not nervous about what it is that you're saying because you're confident. The reason why we're nervous, the reason why we don't want to reach out and contact shippers is because we really don't know what to say. We don't have confidence in our profession. We don't know enough about it, we feel. We don't feel like we can talk about it because we haven't developed that confidence just yet. So how do we develop confidence to be able to boldly stand and talk to our shippers? Well, we have to study our craft. We got to study our shippers to learn more about them, to learn more about their operation, what they do. What's the main part? What's the main focus of their organization? When I understand what they do, then I have a conversation that we can have. But when I don't understand that, when I don't know what I need to know about my profession, then I don't have the confidence that I need to communicate. Develop your confidence and you'll see that your communication will get much better as you go on. Fifth and final thing that I want to talk to you about is having patience. That P word. For some reason, we don't have patience. We live in a right now world. Everything is about, I want it yesterday. And if it doesn't come like that, then something is wrong. Something is wrong with the business. This is not the business for me because instant gratification did not come into play. Well, I want you to know that that's not how life works. We just don't get things because we want it. It takes time, it takes sacrifice, it takes effort, and sometimes extraordinary effort. Think about it. When you go out and you plant a seed and you water the seed, well, it doesn't come up tomorrow. It's going to take time, rain, years maybe before that tree starts to sprout out and become at least a resemblance of what you think it could become. But it's going to take time. That's the same way in your business. It takes time to see results. It takes time to see the success that you want to see. Some people stop just short of making the goal because they've labored, they've worked, and then just before they reach where they're going to reach, that one goal that they want to reach to, they quit. And when they quit, all bets are off. It's over. You'll never get there. So give it time, give it some patience, and watch your business grow. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Work on those interpersonal skills. Develop those skills that'll help you to become a better person and also a better freight broker business owner. If you're interested in learning more about the freight broker business, I'll leave a free link in the description. It's my 5-video series titled How the Load Movement Process Works. It'll give you a chance to come into the office with me and watch over my shoulder as I move loads, talk to shippers and carriers. That way you can get a better understanding of how the business works. And then if you want to know more about how to become a full-time freight broker, I'll leave a free video right here. So until the next time, I wish you the very best in your life and business. See you at the top because the bottom is much too crowded.